You ever catch yourself just sort of narrating your own life? Inside your head, I mean.
Oh, definitely. Like there's this constant running commentary.
Yeah. And it's almost a shock when you first really notice it,
Yeah.
realize it's basically always on.
It is. And what's really curious is how much of it is just describing what we're already seeing. Like you see a dog and your mind goes, dog.
Or right. Or that's a tall tree.
Yeah.
You already know it's a tree. So why does the mind do that? What's the point of narrating the obvious?
Well, one idea is that it gives us this feeling of being integrated with the world, like we've processed it.
A sense of control, maybe?
Yeah.
You saw the tree, you labeled it tree, maybe judged it a bit.
Exactly. A tree that you saw, labeled, and judged. It feels like it's sorted somehow. Understood.
But that inner roommate, as you could call it, isn't always helpful, is it?
Not at all. It can actually be quite negative. Think about getting something new, like, say, a new car you're excited about. Pretty soon, that inner voice starts, doesn't it? Finding little faults, maybe a tiny scratch, or wondering if you paid too much.
Yeah, it sort of chips away at the enjoyment. It just can't seem to let things be purely good.
Right. And that leads to a really core idea here. Starting to see that voice, to recognize it, and then to kind of step back from it, that's a huge step.
A step towards what? Freedom. Peace.
Towards spiritual growth, definitely. Towards not being constantly pushed around by that inner chatter.
Okay, so how do we even begin to do that? To separate ourselves from this voice we've lived with forever?
Well, a really practical starting point is just observation. Try spending a day or even just an hour actively noticing what that voice is saying.
In different situations?
Yeah, like when you meet someone new or when you're doing something mundane like taking a shower. Just notice how relentless it is, how it never stops talking.
And here's a thought. What if someone on the outside talked to you like that?
Exactly. Think about it. The constant criticism, the nervousness, the second guessing, the totally contradictory opinions.
You wouldn't hang out with that person.
Probably not. You certainly wouldn't go to them for advice, would you? Someone so well disturbed.
But we do, don't we? We rely on that inner voice for guidance all the time. It's a real paradox.
It is. Like, think about pre-wedding jitters. The mind can spin up terrifying scenarios.
Oh, yeah.
But if your best friend called you saying those exact same things, you'd probably tell them, hey, it's just nerves, you'll be fine.
But because it's inside our head, we give it so much weight.
Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, what are the credentials of this inner voice? How many times has it been completely, utterly wrong?
Too many to count. Like that time, I was sure my girlfriend forgot our anniversary and she'd planned this huge surprise dinner. My inner voice was way off.
See? Not always the most reliable source.
Okay, so we got this voice, this narrator. But if that's not really us, then who are we? This gets into identity, right?
It does. Usually if someone asks, who are you? What do we say?
Our name, our job. Maybe I'm Frank Smith's wife or something like that.
Right. Labels. But think about those labels. Are they who you fundamentally are, or are they roles, situations?
They're definitely situational. I mean, you weren't always Frank Smith's wife or whatever the label
Well,
is.
exactly. Or take identifying with the body. I'm 6 feet tall. I have blue eyes.
Okay.
But your body changes constantly, doesn't it? You weren't 6 feet tall when you were 5 years old.
True. So which body is the real me?
That's the question. Were you less you back then? It points towards something deeper, doesn't it? The one experiencing all these changes.
The one who notices the thoughts, the feelings,
Yeah.
even the feeling of quiet inside.
Yes. Even the awareness of quiet. This kind of challenges that old idea, I think, therefore I am. Maybe it's more like, who is aware of the thinking?
Because even if the thoughts stop, like in really deep meditation, there's still awareness. You're aware of the silence, the no thoughts.
Precisely. You don't cease to exist when the thinking stops. There's a presence there.
So this is the inner being, the witness.
That's a good way to put it. The observer, watching the thoughts and emotions drift by. And this observer, this awareness, it resides in what you might call the seat of consciousness. That's your true home.
And that part, that's always been there, hasn't it? Through childhood, teenage years, adulthood, the observer remains.
Always. It's the constant thread through all of life's changing scenes. And, this idea isn't new. It echoes concepts like the self in Buddhism or Atman in Hinduism, the soul.
The core unchanging essence.
Exactly. And understanding this really shifts how we deal with life. Think about feeling really low, maybe after a breakup, that lack of energy, everything feels gray.
Yeah, your inner state totally colors your outer world.
It does. And this leads to the idea of staying open. choosing not to close down when things get tough.
That sounds difficult. It feels natural to pull back when hurt.
It does feel natural because we're conditioned by past experiences. A certain smell, a sight, a song, it can trigger an opening or a closing based on old positive or negative impressions stored inside.
Like muscle memory for emotions.
Kind of. We react automatically based on these stored imprints, these samskaras, as they're sometimes called.
Damn scaras.
Yeah.
Those are the stored impressions.
Yes. Particularly the ones we cling to, either really positive ones we don't want to let go of, or negative ones we fight against.
So let's talk about the heart then. Not just the physical organ, but the spiritual heart.
Right. Think of it as this incredibly sensitive instrument, a masterpiece, really, dealing with subtle energies. Most impressions just flow through us day to day.
We don't store every single thing we see or hear.
No, thankfully. But the ones that get stuck, that create blockages, are usually the ones that caused a lot of trouble, the negative ones.
Or the really, really good ones.
Yes, the ones that brought extraordinary enjoyment. We cling to those positive feelings, trying to hold on to them, and that also creates a kind of blockage. It disturbs the flow.
So blocking happens by pushing away the bad and by clinging to the good. Both use up energy.
Exactly. Both are ways of resisting the natural flow of experience, and when we constantly try to protect ourselves out of fear, well, we end up stuck.
Like living in that dark house with the shades always drawn. Safe, maybe, but missing life.
Precisely. So the invitation is to make a commitment, a real commitment, to free yourself from that scared person inside.
Now,
By starting to see those moments when your energy shifts, someone beeps at you, you feel slighted, see those not as attacks to defend against, but as opportunities.
opportunities for what?
Opportunities to notice the reaction and consciously choose to relax and let it go instead of tightening up. Using life itself to free the soul.
And the price for that freedom.
Is letting go of that part of you that wants to control everything, that feels threatened. Letting go of the ego's need to be right or safe all the time.
Okay, so practice with small things first, like someone taking your pencil or cutting in line.
Perfect examples. Instead of letting that small annoyance flare up, consciously breathe, relax your shoulders, and just release the feeling of being bothered. Let it pass through.
Because the mind loves to grab those little things and blow them up, right? Build a whole case around it.
Oh, absolutely. It creates melodrama. The key is not to get involved in the story. It's spinning.
So that center of awareness, the observer, is stronger than these poles.
It is, but it requires your willingness, your intention to release. Not a fight, just a letting go. Remember, having negative emotions isn't the problem.
It's clinging to them.
Exactly. Freedom means being centered even when those feelings are present. They just don't hook you anymore.
And mastering this with the small stuff, it prepares you for the big stuff, like real loss or hardship.
Yes. So that even in the face of major challenges, you can remain centered, feel the pain without being shattered by it, without carrying emotional scars forward.
What about when our feelings change, like suddenly disliking people we used to like?
Those shifts can be signals, reminders that it's time to let go of old judgments or attachments. Putting off that release just makes it harder down the road.
So there's this idea of ascent. Letting go releases energy.
Yes. When you release a blockage, that stuck energy is freed, it gets purified, and it actually strengthens your inner state. The secret is to always look up towards growth, not down into the negativity you're releasing.
Don't fall, let go.
That's it. And the bigger the issue you let go of, the greater the release, the greater the sense of freedom. Conversely, the harder you cling, the worse the fall when reality inevitably shifts.
This whole spiritual journey sounds like constant change then. Giving up the struggle to keep things the same.
It really is. Real transformation starts when we stop seeing problems as things to be avoided and start seeing them as agents for our own growth.
Like that metaphor of the inner thorn.
Exactly. Imagine you have a tiny thorn stuck somewhere sensitive. It only hurts when something touches it, right?
Yeah.
You have two choices. You can spend your life trying to protect that spot, avoiding anything that might trigger the pain.
Or you can remove the thorn. Address the underlying sensitivity.
Right. The thorn is that inner sensitivity, maybe it's loneliness, insecurity, whatever, it's always there, but external events, like watching a romantic movie if you feel lonely, just activate it.
And when it gets activated, that stored energy releases.
And generates thoughts and emotions connected to that old wound. The practice is to observe this happening. Watch the feelings, watch the thoughts, without getting lost in the story. Become an explorer of your own inner landscape.
It's amazing how much effort we put into not feeling things, isn't it? Trying to stop suffering, control everything, worry about future suffering.
It's constant. Compare it to your physical body. When you're healthy, you don't think about your liver or your kidneys constantly, do you?
No, not at all. Only if something's wrong.
Exactly. So to end inner suffering, the first step is realizing our psyche isn't always okay, that we have these sensitive spots, these thorns, and acknowledging that it doesn't have to be this way.
So inner sensitivity, fear, jealousy, anxiety, it's like pain in the body. A
Yeah.
signal.
A signal of non-well-being, yes. Fear, in its many forms, is the psyche's language for something is wrong here.
And maybe we've mistreated our psyche by asking the impossible.
In a way, yes, we give it impossible tasks. Make everyone like me, never let me be criticized, make sure everything turns out perfectly.
Which is why the mind is so busy, maybe, constantly trying to manage the unmanageable.
That's a big part of it. This impossible burden creates underlying fear and that constant neurotic stream of thought. Just like overworking your body leads to exhaustion and pain.
And closing around things, protecting that thorn, that creates lifelong sensitivity.
It often does, a fear of that pain recurring. But if you can learn to relax as the difficult energy passes through,
Then it doesn't get stuck.
it passes through. And being comfortable with that process, even when it's painful, that's the path to freedom. The world can't really bother you if you're not afraid of what gets stirred up inside you.
And what happens when that fear and pain are released?
Life becomes more vibrant, experiences deepen. Eventually, you can uncover this, this ocean of love and peace that's naturally within. That becomes your guide, rather than the old fears and defenses of the psyche.
There's another analogy, isn't there? About building a house.
Ah, yes, the house in the open field. You start with this beautiful open space, your dream house, all light and connection to the outside.
Sounds nice.
But then slowly, maybe out of fear or a need for security, you start building walls. Concrete walls, fewer windows, thick shutters.
You close it all off for protection.
Right. And that house becomes our mental construct of reality, built for safety, but it ends up isolating us from the light, from true open awareness. We feel trapped in the dark, limited by our own protective measures.
Contrasted with what? An ocean of light.
Infinite consciousness, yes. And then the images of those walls finally crumbling and consciousness just expanding out into brilliance. That's a way to think about enlightenment.
So going beyond,
Yeah.
what does that mean in practical terms?
It means constantly moving past your current state, your current limits, a place where boundaries dissolve.
Like that laser beam analogy. Infinity seems finite only because we put a wall up.
Exactly. Our minds create artificial boundaries. Going beyond means changing at your core, moving past the mind's habit of breaking everything down into neat little thought objects to feel like it's in control.
So our views, opinions, preferences, those are ways of making the infinite seem finite and manageable.
They are. They create a mental model of reality, and the trouble starts when reality doesn't fit our model.
Then we fight it, defend our model, get frustrated.
All of the above. Going beyond requires taking the risk of not fully believing in your mental model, choosing to expand past its limits rather than resisting what is actually happening.
We build these models for comfort, though, right? Security. Often based on things like relationships or jobs.
We do. And that's why it's so disorienting, even terrifying, when those models get shaken or collapse, like losing a loved one or a major life change. Our first instinct is often to frantically try and rebuild the old structure.
So paying attention to what we do just to stay comfortable. That shows us why we built the model in the first place.
Yes. Notice what makes you feel secure. Notice what makes you contract. Constantly staying inside that comfort zone, that inner cage, keeps our consciousness limited, even though parts of us feel safer there.
So spirituality is about actively pushing those boundaries, committing to go beyond.
That's a powerful way to frame it. Yes, a commitment to not staying stuck in the cage.
Okay, let's talk about consciousness itself. How does it work?
Think of your inner space as vast and mostly empty. Consciousness tends to focus on whatever stands out, whatever floats through that space.
Like random thoughts or feelings.
Exactly. And when you focus your awareness on one particular thought or feeling, it seems to slow down, maybe even stop for a moment.
Like you're holding on to it.
Yes. Concentrated consciousness can sort of freeze these mental and emotional energy patterns. That's the root of clinging, of attachment.
And we cling because it gives a sense of orientation, security amidst all the interchange.
It does. It creates reference points. This is what I think. This is how I feel. And that extends to how we see the world and how we present ourselves.
The facades, the personas we create.
Right. We all have them. Sometimes we even admit some feel more real than others. Meanwhile, the true self, the observer, stays hidden behind them.
And society kind of reinforces which ones we cling to, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Rewards and punishments.
Definitely. So the question is, how long have we been doing this? Hiding, struggling to maintain these protective models?
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Defending and rationalizing when the model gets challenged.
Trying to rebuild solidity where there just isn't any. There's no real peace in that constant struggle.
So the spiritual path is non-participation.
In that struggle, yes. Seeing events as just belonging to the moment. They happen, they pass. They don't have to define your core self. Let the impressions go.
So when your model gets disturbed, instead of freaking out,
Just notice. Notice the disturbance. You can even see it as helpful, like dynamite breaking up the concrete of the false self, freeing you.
so a spiritual person almost wants their model to break. Accepts disturbances. Doesn't get bothered by what people say.
That's the transformation, yes. Becoming comfortable with psychological disturbance, watching it happen without judgment, asking, who am I that notices this disturbance, instead of, how do I fix this disturbance?
But that must hurt sometimes, letting the model fall apart. It was built to avoid pain.
It can be painful, absolutely. That's the fear you have to face, like leaving that fortress you built. It feels risky, but the freedom outside is worth it. The way out is through awareness.
Watching the psyche without judgment, relaxing behind it.
Yes. And eventually you find you don't need that false solidity anymore. You can just float. Float in peace and love and compassion. That's liberation.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us towards living life then. How do we actually live this?
Right. This final part is about living life as the spiritual path. You know that famous Earthrise photo from Apollo 11?
Yeah, stunning.
It gives you perspective, right? That's the shift we're talking about.
And the core message here seems incredibly simple, almost too simple.
It is simple, yet profound. The highest spiritual path is just your daily life approached properly. And it starts with one question.
Which is?
Do you want to be happy or do you not want to be happy?
Yeah.
That's the fundamental choice.
That sounds stark, but most people think happiness depends on things, right? I'd be happy if only.
Exactly. I'd be happy if my wife hadn't left or if I had more money. That condition, that's the obstacle.
So true happiness needs an unconditional yes.
Yes. Like a starving person just wants food. Not gourmet food or food without onions, just food. The question is, do you want to be happy from this moment on for the rest of your life, regardless of what happens?
Regardless of circumstances.
Regardless. Choosing that, committing to unconditional happiness, is presented as a direct path. No complex rituals needed, no renouncing the world.
It cuts through all the mind's excuses,
Yeah.
the ego's melodrama about why it can't be happy right now.
Exactly. It bypasses all that and awakens you to higher aspects of your own being. And honestly, isn't it the most rational choice? Think about it. We're on this tiny planet, spinning in an infinite universe, here for a short time. What's the point of spending it suffering? What does suffering actually gain you? Enjoy the ride.
Huh. That puts it differently. So this choice, it becomes like a teacher.
A powerful one. It shows you where you're holding back, where you're still attached to unhappiness. It reveals truths about yourself, about life. It requires you to let go, to use affirmations maybe, to stay open.
So committing to happiness actually leads you through all the stages of spiritual growth. It requires consciousness, centeredness.
Openness, yes, all of it. The teaching often says God, or the divine, is joy, ecstasy, love. If you remain open, those energies naturally fill your heart.
There's that story, isn't there, about God asking someone how they are.
And the person just complains about trivial things, totally miserable, while standing in the presence of pure joy. It highlights the absurdity of choosing unhappiness.
So going through life's challenges, the trial by fire, but holding on to that commitment to let go, to choose happiness no matter what.
That's what allows the veils, the limitations of the mind and heart to fall away. And you start to experience what's beyond just ordinary happiness, ecstasy, bliss, liberation.
Okay, so often it feels like we're resisting the situation, but maybe it's more about resisting our experience of it.
That's a key insight. We resist the energy, the thoughts, the emotions as they pass through us. We try to stop the flow.
Using willpower.
Yeah, but that just creates tension, inner conflict, exhaustion. Life has a natural rhythm, like a pendulum. It swings.
Between extremes.
Often, yes. Think about desire and aversion. Wanting someone close constantly versus wanting total separation. Life pulls us between these poles.
Like a smoker quitting cold turkey might suddenly become militantly anti-smoking.
Exactly. The pendulum swings hard to the opposite side, using up a lot of energy. The path of wisdom is finding the center.
Not getting caught in the swings.
Right. Allowing the energies to balance naturally without you needing to push or pull. Just observing the swing from a centered place that brings clarity, presence. Things don't feel so overwhelming.
Like sailing. Finding that sweet spot with the wind and the sail.
Beautiful analogy. It requires constant, subtle adjustments to stay balanced. Not fighting the wind, but working with it. All the great teachings point towards this middle way, this path of the center, avoiding extremes, living in harmony.
Okay, final area. Concepts of God, the divine. They vary so much.
They do, heavily influenced by culture. But beyond the concepts, there's this idea of a direct connection within us, something beyond the personal self.
And connecting with that changes you.
Consciously identifying with that deeper part, yes, it leads to a natural transformation. You start to feel the shift away from negativity towards peace, detachment. It's tangible.
Releasing the lower stuff lets the spirit rise.
That's the feeling. As you willingly let go of the parts of yourself that hold you down, your natural state becomes lighter, higher. You start to experience the states, the love, the peace that sages talk about.
But how do we really know anything about God? Beyond belief.
The traditional answer points to direct experience. When the individual consciousness, the drop, merges back into the ocean of universal oneness, Atman into Paramatman.
Like I and my Father are one. That kind of merging.
Exactly. That state of union, that's where direct knowledge comes from. It's a mystical understanding taught across many traditions.
And people who walk that path, who experience that merging, how do they change?
Reports consistently speak of a tremendous unconditional love for all of creation. Judgment falls away. There's just appreciation, honoring what is.
They see creation differently.
Yes, without the filter of personal likes and dislikes, without judgment, with incredible love and understanding. When you touch that divine consciousness, that ecstasy,
You know God's nature directly.
you experience it, a state where nothing can truly upset you, where everything is seen as part of a beautiful, intricate dance. Your own natural state rises, filled with love, not shame. The divine becomes this unconditional refuge.
So wrapping this all up, the key takeaway seems to be about awareness.
Yes. You are the conscious observer, the witness of your thoughts and emotions. You are not the thoughts and emotions themselves.
And recognizing that inner voice, the narrator, and its tendency to create drama and limit us, that's the crucial first step.
It really is, learning to step back and just watch it without getting hooked.
So the encouragement for everyone listening is to practice that observation. Just notice the inner dialogue without judging it.
And maybe explore that powerful choice. Choosing unconditional happiness, seeing where that commitment takes you.
Yeah, and maybe reflecting on those comfort zones, those mental models we build. Are they really serving us, or are they keeping us caged?
Good questions to ponder. And the ultimate question to keep returning to, gently, throughout your day.
Who am I?
Or perhaps, even more simply, who is it that is aware of all this? Explore that in the quiet spaces of your life. 1 minute reflection.
So just for a moment now, wherever you are, see if you can find a quiet stillness. Just notice your breath flowing in and flowing out. And as you breathe, become aware of any thoughts drifting through your mind. Don't engage them. Don't push them away. Just watch them, like clouds passing overhead. Notice the awareness behind the thoughts, that quiet, spacious presence that's always here. This week, maybe try bringing this gentle noticing into your daily activities. When you hear that inner voice starting up, criticizing, worrying, narrating, just acknowledge it briefly. There's the voice. Then gently bring your attention back. Back to your breath, back to this present moment, back to the quiet observer within. Just see if practicing this creates even a little more space, a little more ease in your day.